On this upcoming attractions episode of Midnight Double Feature, we've got a brand new trailer for Candyman, plus reviews for Sonic the Hedgehog and Lee Winnell's The Invisible Man. All this and more on its upcoming attractions episode of Midnight Double Feature. Matthew. No, I'm sorry.
Oh, we're going to use that as the starting. Matthew, what's happening? Welcome back to another episode of Upcoming Attractions, Midnight Double Feature. What's happening, baby?
Oh, fuck you. Yeah, I'm good, man. Yourself?
I'm good, dude. I just love that you knew immediately how I was going to kick it off.
It's like the world's worst catchphrase. But I'm
totally
cool with it. I'm cool. Can't wait till we have on t-shirts and everything. It's going to be great.
Dude, what's better than one Matthew, three Matthews? So who cares?
Right, that's true. That is true.
Guys, welcome back to another Upcoming Attractions episode of Midnight Double Feature. On this episode, we're going to go through the latest trailers, or trailer, singular, and we're going to go through a couple of reviews of some stuff that's out in the movies right now. And then at the end, we're going to talk about our MDF game for this week, which is, what is your favorite video game adaptation? Now, that's a bit of a loaded question, seeing as the quality of video game adaptations isn't that high, the bar's not that high. So that's going to be a fun conversation. And our community decided to chime in. We always post a poll regarding those MDF games. That's on the After Party, which is on Facebook. That's our Facebook group. It's called the After Party. That's 3 words. That's where our community comes together to talk all things movies and to talk all things movie-related news and memes, and just has a great time. And then we also have our main page, which is Midnight Double Feature, and we also have our 2 other accounts, which is MDF Pod. That's our Twitter handle, and Midnight Double Feature, at Midnight Double Feature rather, which is our Instagram. So give those a follow. That'll be fantastic. That's where we post all of our updates and things like that, and where you'll find our notifications of our latest episodes. And also, please remember to rate and review us on iTunes. We currently have a little bit of a competition going at the moment. If you're familiar with Midnight Double Feature, one of our other big episode formats is feature presentations. We're giving away a free pick, randomly, a free pick of any movie for me and Colin and possibly Matt and Danny to cover. And you know how long these episodes are? They're like 2 to 3 hours, right? So that it's a substantial amount of our time to covering your movie of choice. All you need to do is write us a review on iTunes, screenshot that review, and email it to midnightdoublefeature@gmail.com. And then you go into the running to be selected for a free movie for us to cover, which is awesome, dude. Like we already got a few entries that Colin and I have been looking at, and we're just keen to get a few more in there. So that's what we got going on. We're gonna have that going for a little while longer before we decide to close that competition. So really keen. All right, Matt. That's all the boring shit out of the way. What have you been up to? What's happening? What's new?
Nothing much, man. I've got a bit of a sore throat, so my voice might sound a little fucked today. Other than that, I've just been plucking away at life. How about you?
Yeah, plucking away, attending your birthday party, which was fantastic. So happy birthday. I know that I neglected to say happy birthday 2 weeks ago on our last Upcoming Attractions episode. So I'm really, really sorry about that, because you do it every time for me. And I felt like the biggest fucking asshole. So happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah. But all right, man, let's get into our lone trailer of the week.
Yeah, it's a very quiet week this week. But we got a trailer for Candyman. What do you reckon?
Yeah, all right. No, you know what? Let's you kick it off, right? This is your genre. You're into slashers. You're into horrors.
Well,
right?
I got to be honest, man. I'm not super familiar with the original Candyman.
You know why I threw it to you? Because neither am I.
Right. So here's what I do know about it. I know more about it than I have seen the movie. So everything I say, take it with a grain of salt, because I haven't verified or checked any of this information, because if you think I actually prepare for this podcast, you are sadly mistaken.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
But the original, which I think might have been late 90s, it has a 90s vibe to it.
92.
92, okay, early 90s, my bad. I know Candyman, I think he was seen as the first or one of the first black slasher horror villains. and
Tony Todd, dude. I love Tony Todd.
Right. What's he in? I'm not familiar with him.
He was in Final Destination. He was always the guy, like the really creepy guy who was always telling, like, kind of giving them exposition. Like he would be the guy to tell them that death is coming for them. Like he's
so to put him in those movies, that's a little bit of like a stunt casting type. It's like putting Robert Englund or fucking Mick Taylor in a horror film or some iconic legend. Yeah. Not Mick Taylor. Exactly. Who am I thinking of?
No, John Jarrett.
John Jarrett. Yeah. Yeah. Or someone who's iconic to that level. I see, what's his name? One of the guys who played Jason. I see him pop up in like B-grade horror films all the time. Just because everyone's like,
Kane Hodder.
That's it, Kane Hodder. Because everyone's like, oh my God, it's Jason in another movie. It's like a big deal.
Yeah, this will
I
make
think
it
he was
good.
I think he was in Hatchet, I think, and or the first one and a few others. But yeah, anyways, yeah. I know like I think there was like some socio-political context to that film. I don't fully know it, but it makes sense why Jordan Peele would want to produce something like this. I believe it was something about like I think it takes place in Chicago, I want to say, where there's a lot of the projects. Yeah, it's a lot of the projects, a lot of places where you would have like low income African Americans, and like the fact that there's someone there going around killing them is kind of a deal. And I know the original film was about a white female reporter. I think she was a reporter, or she was like doing a school project or something. Basically, she was going around interviewing people and like, why do they, and like she was like one of the few people who thought it was real or something like that. And that's the first thing I noticed with this trailer, is that they've changed the protagonist to an African American male, which I think kind of helps save you from like being accused of white savior complex stuff. And that's kind of where it stops with my knowledge. Other than I think he has something to do with bees or honey or something. I don't fully understand.
Well, we are like, rest in peace to the people who have, actually seen Candyman and are probably like yelling into their radios or speakers or whatever the fuck they're listening to us.
They're like, what are you talking about? It takes place in Texas. It's about a talking chainsaw named Timmy.
It's a fucking comedy.
It's a rom-com. You don't get it, man.
Exactly.
It's actually the prequel to B Movie. Jerry Seinfeld
Seinfeld's in it.
Jerry Seinfeld has a cameo and everything.
Fucking Kramer walks through the door every episode, every fucking scene. Oh, dude.
I need to see that movie. Okay, but let's get all the way out of the way. Let's just say we've both seen this trailer with kind of fresh eyes. And from what I understand, like the tone of this looks a little bit different to the original anyways. So yeah, it looks very modern. It's got that, I want to say that Stranger Things-esque vibe. I feel like Stranger Things has created this new genre of horror where it's like young kids teaming up. Well, I guess the 80s slashers had that too, but they've kind of revitalized it in a new way. Loving the feel and look of the film. And I know it's a trend nowadays to get like a popular song and like, hey, let's make a creepy version of it. And while I think it is smart to use Beyonce's Say My Name, that song in my head is still so poppy and catchy that I can't take it seriously, even when they're doing a creepy version of it. But I love the concept of it. If you say Candyman's name 3 times, he comes out and kills you, kind of like Bloody Mary.
5 times.
Oh, 5 times. Sorry. He had to 2-up Bloody Mary. But yeah, by putting the Destiny's Child, I'm not sure, is it Destiny's Child or Beyonce? I think it's Destiny's Child.
Dude, I don't give a
remix in there.
I'm not keen.
Yeah. You're not keen in the movie?
Oh, no. I was just about to say, I'm not keen to just like go through random fucking early 2000s, performers and be like, hey, it's probably her.
Yeah.
Look, I am somewhat keen. This trailer doesn't really get me that excited though. I mean, look, there's a thing for me, right? I mean, movies these days really, really love to push these big time, directors when they're producing stuff. The big one for me is James Cameron. Man, the shit that James Cameron has produced, but the movie ends up being dog shit because they're directed by someone else. It's, I don't know, so Jordan Peele, I'm hoping that he takes a bit more of a hands-on approach. This movie is actually directed by a 29-year-old. Her name is Nia DaCosta. It's a she, which is really interesting as well. So that's pretty cool. I know that made me sound like, I just gave a backhanded compliment, but it's really interesting to give a female director a horror movie, considering, I really like the Babadook. Like, you saw the Babadook, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, that was obviously an Australian film, blah, blah, blah. I'm fucking forgetting the director's name of that, but yeah, man, I don't know. Like I know very little about the original Candyman, other than what they covered on one of our favorite podcasts, Rogues Gallery, which is handled by Chris Schrader and the guys over at not all the guys over at How Do You Remember, but they covered the actual Candyman. Like, what they do, the whole premise of their podcast is to go through villains and anti-villains and kind of like dedicate a whole entire episode to them, and it's pretty cool. So I recommend checking that podcast out. I know that the projects are called Cabrini Green. I know that Candyman comes out if you say his name 5 times, but other than that, that's it. Like, he uses a hook for a hand. Some bees are involved somehow. Yeah, I would like to check out the original before checking out this one. I really, really adore the lead in this. The lead in this is Yahya Abdul Mateen II. If he sounds familiar to you, he was the villain in Aquaman. He was in Watchmen. He was also briefly in Us, very briefly in Us. This movie's being written. I know the original was written by Clive Barker, who also wrote Hellraiser and directed Hellraiser. So like behind the scenes,
the good Hellraiser, the good one,
right, the one good one. So yeah, like behind the scenes, there's some decent talent here. So I'm really, really keen to see what they bring to this project. But as far as this trailer goes, I'm not utterly convinced. It's super really quickly cut, and you don't really get a sense of like what's happening, and like all the horror tropes are there, which is good in a way. Like all the you're expecting to go into a horror movie and things like that, but I don't know. I think I was just looking for a little bit more. It seems a little bit conventional.
Yeah, I feel like it is pretty conventional. Also, I think this trailer is choosing not to show us a lot. I think it's just trying to set things up. I think we noticed this pattern with superhero movies, especially. But the second trailer, we'll probably see more of the villain or more of the thing, and the third trailer will pretty much more of the same. But so maybe trailer 2 will win us over. I feel like I said this last podcast about another movie, whatever it was. But yeah, I'll check it out. I'll watch any horror movie in the cinema. I might try and catch up on the first one first, though. I do believe there were some direct-to-DVD sequels, but I'm pretty sure most people ignore that. So I might watch the first one to catch up.
I think there were 2 from memory. Yeah.
But yeah.
It's funny where we came in.
Candyman.
I know, it's funny where we came in. Like, I was like full expecting you to give me a full-on lowdown of like, Candyman, this is the history. This is like how I started, like when I first saw it, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, oh. All right.
Yeah. Most slashers I would, but that's like one of the few that I missed. And I'm assuming he's a slasher because I don't actually know Candyman very well. I just assume it's a slasher just based on like, it was near the end of that slasher trend, I think, that was going in. Like, I think it leaked into like the early 90s a bit. And then it's sort of like, I feel like the 90s sort of took over with action movies when you got stuff like Terminator 2 and shit like that.
Stuck with Terminator 2? Dude, you say that like that's a bad thing.
No. I mean, like, Terminator 2 is like the benchmark. When was Terminator 2? Is that 93? 91. Yeah, there you go. So I think, because I feel like that started like inspiring special effects, along with like, obviously we got Jurassic Park a few years later. But yeah, when I think of 90s, I think of like action movies with like real stunts and real explosions. And I always long for those days.
Oh, you're talking about the Nicolas Cage tour de force that is Face Off?
Oh, yeah. The peak of Cage. Peak Cage.
Dude, no. Peak Cage, man, I got to argue is Con Air. Like, come on, dude. You can't go past Con Air. I'm sorry.
Well, that was what, 90 what, 94 maybe?
Yeah.
Probably earlier, maybe not.
No, I don't think it was that early.
Really? Maybe.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Currently looking this up to prove you wrong.
Okay. Oh, I'm
97.
probably
There we go.
97. Wow. Okay.
Thought it
My
was
bad.
later. Because it went The Rock and then it went Face Off and then it went, Con Air.
I just saw the bad haircut, so I assumed it was. I see a bad haircut. I assume it's from the 80s or close to it.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, look, we don't have that much to say about fucking, what is this movie called again?
Candyman.
I know. I'm kidding. Maybe a second trailer will sway me. Maybe, closer to the release. I don't know. I'll definitely check it out. But yeah, as it is right now, I don't know. Whatever.
Zohab, this really feels like the shortest episode ever because we're already ready for trailers. Reviews.
Dude, we are ready for reviews. And the first one we're going to be reviewing is, speaking of slashers, speaking of horror, we're going to go straight into The Invisible Man.
What happened to him?
Adrian's dead.
Listen, you're getting your freedom back, okay?
He said that wherever I went, he would find me, walk right up to me, and I wouldn't be able to see him. Adrian is dead. He's not dead. He has figured out a way to be invisible.
So The Invisible Man. Zohab, I think we both kind of like this movie. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I really, really enjoyed this movie, man. This movie was super effective. I went into this with really high expectations, considering it's, Lee Whannell, who's just coming off Upgrade, man. Like, Jesus Christ, Upgrade was great. Like, seriously, like he thought, by the way, I listened to a podcast interview. He thought that, when Blumhouse and Universal called him into an interview, they were going to interview him about a Upgrade sequel. But that's not the case because, like, midway through, they're like, hey, what do you think about The Invisible Man? And he's like, I think it's a good property. I don't know much about it, but this is how I would like do it, And then he started pitching this domestic violence-esque kind of like thriller. But yeah, man, like this is a character that's been around for 130 years. Like seriously, 1897 is when the character was put on paper. And they've had countless like adaptations and things like that. You got the original movie. You've got the 90s Kevin Bacon film called Hollow Man, right? Like that was a thing. But no director or no writer, which Lee Whannell is both, have put him in the context of a sort of domestic violence / stalker sort of slasher. And when you see it play out, it's perfect. Like that kind of concept, that kind of like background or genre of film fits this character like a glove because, not only does he have the ability to go invisible, but he also has the ability to, create this sense of paranoia in the lead. And, no Invisible Man adaptation has ever thought to put the victim as the lead character. Like, the Invisible Man's never been a villain. Like he's always been, the scientist who's always kind of like, trying to create this invisibility sort of like ability. So it's really interesting to see how he used this character and how he kind of like took this really classic, universal monster and kind of made it his own and made it not only just relevant, but also really exciting. The execution of this movie is just absolutely stunning, dude. Like, not only is it filmed amazingly, you just get these, like, sometimes you get these, like, pans of, like, nothing, and you don't know if he's there and you don't know if he is. And I listened to an interview with, like, Lee Whannell, and there are scenes that are like, although you can't see anything and although the scene kind of goes nowhere, the camera angle goes nowhere, he actually is there. They put him in the suit and like they mocapped him and like they made him invisible. You know what I mean? Like there's a scene in the house where he's actually physically there. But it has no bearing on the story. It's just, meant to be there to fuck with you. So there's like little things like that are just like cut throughout the film, and it's just absolutely amazing. I can't wait to watch this again. The domestic violence aspect of this is absolutely perfect. I can't get off that element of it. The way this movie starts, dude, I love how it just kicks off, with this escape sequence. Like it wastes no time. There's no bullshit or backstory. We don't get a scene of like of Adrian, bashing what's her name, Elizabeth Moss's character. We don't get any of that stuff. It's just literally the fear in her face as the movie opens, and how careful she's being. That tells us already enough how dangerous this guy is. The very fact that she physically has to remove his hand as it's slumped over her while they're sleeping, like that says a lot, like I don't need a physical violence scene or anything like that. The score of this movie is absolutely outstanding. It's by Benjamin Wallfisch, who, along with Hans Zimmer, did Blade Runner 2049. This movie has a booming score. Like, it's just absolutely, it's astounding. Like it's just, it takes you by surprise, and it's fantastic, man. The moments of tension, like Lee Whannell has just perfected the tension in this film, but not only tension, just the surprise moments where there are no tension. Like there's a scene, and spoilers, guys, by the way, if you haven't seen this, stop listening now. You don't want to jump into spoilers without having seen this movie, because this movie has a lot of surprises. There's a scene in a restaurant, man, like that just takes you by surprise. It's like, what the fuck, dude? There are
so well done.
Absolutely. There's a scene in a penitentiary, with a long kind of like a long take camera sort of like sequence. Absolutely fantastic, dude. Like he utilizes some upgrade kind of technology. I know on Upgrade he used iPhones, but in this, I was listening to an interview. He used these kind of like motion cameras. That's really interesting. You could do some research into that, but it's really, really cool, super interesting how he utilized these cameras. But yeah, man, like this is just a fantastic movie from start to finish. Like I love the way this movie plays on your emotions. I love the way that we feel how Elizabeth Moss's character feels, or how any woman would feel in a domestic violence relationship. Like they feel like they're not heard. They feel like that they can't escape. They feel like that they're trapped, in their own world, and no one's believing them. And it's just, it absolutely works in the context of a monster film. And in my opinion, man, I just think I was not expecting to give this movie a 10, but I can't imagine giving it any lower. Like this is a perfect film. In my opinion, there's nothing I would change about it, dude. I guess it does slow down somewhere in the middle. But look, that's not really a minus for me at all. I really like the practical way they explained the suit, but not over-explained it. This is just an astounding film, and it's really, again, went in with super high expectations and was not disappointed in the slightest. I wanted more of it, but at the same time, I don't want more of it. I'm happy with this as it is, not connected to an overall franchise, just a one and done kind of thing. I love the twists and turns. This is just an absolute 10 for me, dude. Love this film. How about you?
Yeah, I really liked Invisible Man. I also went in with high expectations, and they were met. Lee Whannell is probably my favorite Australian director. I also like James Wan a lot too, but yeah, so I had a lot of high hopes. I was curious, leading up to their reveal of trailers and stuff, how the fuck they would pull off Invisible Man, because he's one of the Universal classics, but let's be real, almost all the Universal classic monsters are really boring by today's standards.
Well, and he predates Universal classics. Like Universal classics came around in the 40s / 50s, right?
Yeah, but even the monsters back then, Dracula is boring as fuck. When was the last time? I can't think of a single good Dracula movie that I liked.
Hold up. I love Dracula, dude.
What's a good movie starring Dracula? Van Helsing?
Bram Stoker's Dracula.
When's that? When was that?
Keanu Reeves, Gary Oldman, 97, 98, I think. Fuck, really good movie, dude.
So that's before Dracula Untold.
Oh, dude, fuck. Yeah, Jesus Christ, man. Come on.
But see what I mean? We haven't got a good one. That's 20 years ago. We haven't got a lot of them. Like Frankenstein, we haven't seen a good Frankenstein movie, and I can't even remember when we last got a Frankenstein movie.
Joe Johnston,
The Mummy.
I Frankenstein, right? That was with Aaron Eckhart. But Joe Johnston's The Wolfman, right? Back in, I think, 2009 with Benicio del Toro.
Yeah, there was that one, and I think that one didn't do great at the box office.
Didn't do well. Didn't do critically
and
either.
then obviously the Mummy reboot was terrible, and even with the good Mummy movies, the first one was kind of staying true-ish to the original, but after that they just turned to an action franchise because they're like, what the fuck can we do with this character? So obviously when you come to a character like the Invisible Man, who compared to the others, is the least monstery in terms of appearance, for lack of a better word. You think, okay. And the main thing about him they changed too, which was like, oh, he's usually covered in bandages. That's how you see it. Not once in this film. There's like, I think an Easter egg where she sees someone who's in pain, covered in bandages. I don't know if that's meant to be him or not, but that's how far they got away from the source material, and for good reason too. Leigh Whannell just took the very, very, very basic concept and came up with a really great premise. Some of the best horror movies and the most praised horror movies are horror movies that take a concept and sort of use it as a way to retell a message by showing how it can be scary, but with a supernatural sense. Like Babadook is a good look on. I think it was like depression, postmortem depression, grief, and all that sort of like those negative feelings that stay with you. Obviously, we've got Get Out, which looks at like things like racism. You got obviously things like
Hereditary.
Hereditary, yeah. There's a few, man. There's quite a lot. And this one, like, this could have easily been fucked up. Like, as in, you could have easily missed the boat with this concept. Like, so Lee was very smart with the way that he tread the fine line to, like, not fuck up anybody's triggers, I think, with this. I'm sure it might have for some people, but by smartly showing early on that he is abusive and he is someone to be scared of, but they never talk about physical violence. It's more so much the psychological aspect of control,
right, absolutely.
which is in abusive relations. What a lot of people don't realize is domestic violence is not always physical violence. In fact, usually it's not. It's controlling people. It's telling people what they can and can't do. It's playing mind games. And the movie smartly dives more into that. So there's the paranoia.
We only get the illusion. Well, I mean, like the implication that he hit her like literally once, like,
Yeah, until he's actually attacking her as a monster in that term. Like you just know that he's a shitty person. Sure, he breaks his arm through the window, but like they never actually show you a proper physical, like a scene that would replicate something realistic, which I think could give people bad memories and stuff, which is fucking smart to do.
Right. Because that way, most of it's played off like Elizabeth Moss's, like face. Like it's on her. It's the way that she's really reacting to, like the news that he's dead, the news that he's probably possibly come back and stalking her. Like
for the most part of the first half of the film, it's implied violence, which is why the film for some people may go a bit slow, and rightly so, because there's a lot to set up, and they have to play with to pull this concept off. You really do have to play with the fact, like, is she crazy? Is it real? Because for a while, until she finds a suit, until she gets like first attacked, like you don't really know for sure. There's like things leading up to it, but like she just says, oh, he's a leader in optics. He can do it. But when she first says he could turn someone invisible, like they don't really set that up strongly, I think to an advantage, because it shows how much of an out there concept it is. But you've been with her on this journey, so you're kind of, as an audience member, brought to believe her. And so, yeah, basically, long story short, the script is really smartly written the way it handles it. Because then when it does do the violent stuff, it's really earned those moments. And I think while there isn't many killings in the first half, they really make up for it towards the end. Especially with the scene very much so where you can see Leigh Whannell took a lot what he learned from Upgrade for an amazing sequence in the mental ward. But yeah, I think the best things about this film, obviously, Elizabeth Moss' performance is incredible. I think it's very strongly directed. I think it's Leigh's best directing to date, I would say. And I fucking loved Upgrade, but this even tops that, I would say.
This is a director that gets better and better, dude.
Yeah, man. And you know what I love? Just being a fan of him, I can see how he evolves. Like, obviously, it's a very different film to Upgrade, but when those more action-based sequences happen, you can see elements of that in here. And then, like, towards the end, with the way they're doing twists, it's like, oh, there's the old Saw coming out of him, which I think's been with him for a lot of his projects. I think what was really cool, what's really cool about this film and what I love about horror slasher villains is I want them to have an iconic look. And this does. When you see the suit, it is creepy, but kind of believable. The way that's all little cameras and they sort of move constantly. The smartest thing this film does besides using this concept to convey a lot of belief, like, a lot of things to do with that fit into things like the believe all women, sort of movement and things about those sort of themes is another thing it does is it knows when not to over explain for the most part. I think the best thing it does is not explaining how he got invisible and not setting up the character so much. The less we know about him, the scarier he becomes. And you don't really meet the character until one of the final scenes when he starts talking and he tries to play it off. And that's when you really, more than ever, realize how manipulative this guy is. And it just really can ring true to some of the most terrible monsters of today's society. I think the kills are really great when they are done. There are some genuine scares here. Great use of suspense. My only major nitpick is I think...
Get ready for me to fight you hard.
They don't do enough to explain the twist. They leave a lot up to the imagination.
Wait, which twist?
The one about the involvement of his brother. They do plant, but what they do, but it's not, I'm not saying it's bad because he does definitely plant the seeds, but there were some moments where both my girlfriend and I left where we tried to actually sit down and talk it out and break it down. We both were still slightly confused. We're like, oh, well, maybe this happened, but the film never tells you that happened or whatever. So I end up I started making up stuff to explain things. And I know when my brain does that, that means the film hasn't done the best job of explaining.
That's funny because, I watched it with my girlfriend and we both kind of picked it. Before the reveal, we were like, oh, bet you he's in on it. Bet you he's wearing the suit.
Oh, I thought that too. But I was expecting them to go in more depth of explaining how he was.
Yeah. Look, at that moment,
did he I'm thinking did he help put Adrian behind the wall, or did Adrian do that himself? There's a sign. I think the biggest thing that confused stuff is when he starts presenting her the ultimatum, go back to Adrian, you'll be okay. There's a sign on the table that's blue tacked there to the table that says don't draw or read on the table. And I couldn't figure out if he presented that or if that was already there.
That was a mental ward thing. Yeah, no, that's just
yeah. So at first I thought he was scared of Adrian. He's saying lying, so he's secretly on her side. But then they cut back to it later. And I'm like, why the fuck are they showing this? So it's okay, so he was working with Adrian, but why? We know why Adrian wants to, but we don't know his motivations. He's just not as well developed as a character, so I don't understand his motivations as much.
So, do you here's my thoughts, right?
I assume it's something to do with something they don't show us. He does mention something early in the film about Adrian was used to control him and find ways to control him, but I would have wanted to see a scene where maybe find out he was blackmailed or he was scared for his life and that's why he did it. We don't know the motivation, but unless you saw something I didn't.
I don't honestly. If there was a scene of him blackmailing his brother, I would have been out. I'm just yep, nope, cool.
But we could have found something later. Maybe maybe the guy was he was helping Adrian because something. Give us something.
So this is what I'm getting, right. So the movie presents this argument that Elizabeth Moss's character believes that the brother was not in the suit the entire time. She knew for a fact that Adrian was 100% stalking her. Because he knew things physically about their relationship. He said, she could literally hear his voice when he said, surprise and things like that. That's a thing. She could feel his presence. She knows 100%. So when the cops find him, it's not that much of a stretch for Adrian to just go back to the house and hide there. I don't need that I don't need to see him physically go back to the house and hide.
I know
there,
that.
so, like,
but why did he do it? That's what I'm saying.
To get himself back into her life. Like literally.
No. Why did Adrian's brother do that though?
That's
my problem. That character's not defined. The twist would work even better if it made sense to me. Because the only thing I have that from the movie to suggest why his motivation was there was that earlier in the film there's like a small line where it says something like, Adrian's to try and find ways to control me too. So that's why I was happy when he married you, because he started focusing on you a bit. So we know there's a history of it, but we don't know, why would he want to kill these people? Like, I get if one of them's a psycho, but what's the chance of two people in a family being a serial killer?
But does he actually kill anyone? Like, or is he just, or is it about trying to fuck them?
Well, we know at the very least he was trying to kill the daughter, because that's why he was there. Because Adrian said he would kill the daughter, which kind of explains why he was able to get there so fast. But and that's the other thing too, like this guy had no, to our knowledge, history of killing people, but now all of a sudden he wants to kill everybody. And apparently he's like a jiu-jitsu champion, because out of nowhere, he was like the best at killing people. Look, I mean, sure he's invisible.
I can buy that. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm willing to suspend my disbelief because it's a movie and I want to enjoy a movie. Yeah. But it's like, if they explained earlier something like, I don't know, he used to be in the military, so he's good at fucking killing. Like, this guy's got no remorse. This guy's got nothing. And that's the thing where it starts to fall apart a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. Yeah. In real life, domestic abusers and shit aren't serial killers. They probably would never kill someone if given the chance. They just want to control someone, or they want to feel powerful. That's generally the thing. But obviously, it's a horror movie. They got to entertain you. They're going to push it a bit to the limit, so I can forgive it mostly. But just some of that stuff, I feel like if it was set up, or at least, give us a history, like, he used to be violent with other people too, or he's good at shooting people. Like he shoots like 5 people in this movie at least with no hesitation. But so yeah, that's what I mean. Nitpicks. Those are nitpicks. Doesn't mean it's a bad movie. So actually, I really love that killing scene in the mental ward, because I got Terminator 2 vibes a little bit, which I know. Sorry, Terminator vibes a little bit. Just the no remorse, no relentlessly, just killing spree, that type of shit. And I know Terminator was an influence and upgrade as well. So I really love that sort of stuff as well. It was really fun. And I really love the suit, how it looked. Overall, I think I'm going to give it a 9. I also do think the beginning was a bit slow, but I'm willing to forgive it mostly because it built up to such great fucking shit. And it's definitely one of the better horror movies, actually one of the best I've seen in a while. I'm also interested with what they could do next, because...
Oh, dude, don't. I'm going to take off my headphones right now.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it can do, I just think it should be one and done.
Well, I know, but you know what Lee Winnell's like? He's all his films are they set up potential sequels. He wants to do Upgrade 2. Saw had 1,000 sequels. It's smart for him. It's smart for him as a director to put himself in good shoes at Blumhouse to allow that, and slashers always do that. But if she's the killer, it's going to kind of undo a lot of the good character work and stuff done in the last film. So I really hope either they leave it or they have the world's best fucking concept for the next film, because I'd be worried about what they would do with that. But I also want to say real quick, I really enjoed not only Elizabeth Moss's performance, I really liked the
Aldous
cop.
Hodge. Yeah.
Say his name? Yeah.
Aldous
He was
Hodge.
pretty great. I was looking at how ripped he was in one scene, this guy will be in a Marvel movie one day. I can see it. He'll do it.
For sure.
And the
Black
daughter
Panther
too. Yeah, the daughter as well. She was pretty charismatic, I thought.
She was in a terrible Disney movie.
She looks like a Disney kid. What was it called?
God damn it. It was directed by Ava DuVernay. It was terrible. I can't remember.
But yeah, the casting all around was great. I love seeing the villain from Upgrade in one scene. That was a cool nod.
So you and I, let's talk about us a little bit, right? Like you and me.
The movie Us?
No. We disagree on like fundamentals. Like, like it's funny because I think my favorite part of this movie was the first half. Like I didn't think that, the second half was terrible or anything. Like I actually thought it was great. But, the whole psychological element of it, the whole build up of it, I just, yeah, that was all me, dude. And you know what? We were talking about Mandy a couple of weeks ago, and I remember you telling me about Mandy, and you were like, oh, the second half is so much better than the first, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, dude, I actually love the first half better. Like, I love the build up.
I almost walked out of the cinema during the first half. I'm glad I didn't, because I love the second half. But there's literally a 15-minute scene where a girl stares down the barrel of the lens and just talks spaciously. And I'm just there like, where is this going? And Mandy. But that being said, I don't dislike the first half. Like I said, it's that sort of slow burn shit. It's got to have a good payoff to make it good for me. And that's everything about Breaking Bad. It's everything about Game of Thrones. And this movie does that really well. And I do like almost the mystery element of it. I think it was good. So it's with that point, it's like a double-edged sword for me. And this one, it pulls it off. But a lot of films fuck that up, I find. But this one didn't fuck it up, which is great.
Just before we move on, just for the sake of completion, Storm Reid, the girl in The Invisible Man, was in a movie called A Wrinkle in Time. That was the movie.
Oh,
yeah.
With Oprah.
Yeah, it was a bad movie, man. That sucked ass. All right, man. You ready to move on to Sonic the Hedgehog?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I'm Sonic, a little ball of super energy in an extremely handsome package. On my planet, people were always after my powers, so I came to yours. It gets a little lonely, but that's okay. I am living my best life on Earth. Ow! Let the plate Sonic! Let the bitches mount also Sonic!
All right, Matthew, talk to me about Sonic the Hedgehog, because I did not watch this.
This movie was pretty good. I'm not going to lie. It's a kid's movie, so you got to like take it as a kid's movie. But by kids' movie standards, I'd say it's way better than I thought it was going to be. Good for them. Like, how do I start? Okay, so first of all, it's got a lot of heart. Which I did not expect from a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. What they do is, first of all, they're very smart. They just take the character and they just plop him into the real world, and they use that as a way to sort of get rid of everything else. So they don't have to go through all this work of setting up all this bullshit and explaining all this stuff. They know the best thing about Sonic the Hedgehog is Sonic the Hedgehog, so they just make him the focus. So all that most of the stuff to do with the video games isn't really here. What you do get from the video games are just little Easter eggs, and they're really well placed, including not even just the games, but like the meme culture around Sonic the Hedgehog, which is a massive community, probably more popular than the games themselves. Which, a lot of Marvel movies have like really forced Easter eggs, but this one was pretty organic and they're all great. But yeah, there was a lot of heart. They took this character who's really cocky and overconfident, but they made him very lonely because he was like trapped in this world where he wasn't allowed to be around people and stuff. And so when he goes to these moments, like they really are like making friends and all that stuff, it really has a lot of heart to it, and you got to love it for that. And Ben Schwartz did a great job of voicing Sonic. I knew straight away that'd be great casting, and I was fucking right. In the first maybe 20% of the film, he's a little annoying when he's mostly by himself, but once you start putting scenarios around people, he's great. The thing everyone's going to talk about is Jim Carrey, obviously. That's because Jim Carrey feels like 90s, 2000s Jim Carrey. Like he's doing what he does best. And I feel like we haven't seen Jim Carrey do what he does best in a long time. That being said, he's not the star of the show. He's the villain. A lot of his scenes, he is mostly by himself, or he's like with just a few other people, where he's just chewing the scenery and they're just reacting to him being crazy. It did make me notice something, and I might cop some flack for this, about Jim Carrey's over-the-top comedic performances. And once I noticed in Sonic, I started noticing his other films too. But generally, like what makes him go crazy, there's no trigger. He just is like that. And so it's pretty unrealistic. So you really have to like be ready for that. But it's always funny. Like he's really funny. But I'd still say the character Sonic, this is his movie, and Jim Carrey never steals the spotlight for too long. He works in it. That being said, this movie is really fucking safe. You can always guess what's going to happen next. A lot of the jokes I feel like have been done before. Like, you know, in X-Men, that Quicksilver scene where everything slows down, he fucks around with that. This movie does that twice, and they're both pretty good, but not as good as X-Men with Quicksilver. But the jokes are legitimately funny. It is pretty funny at times. They didn't make it feel like they were trying to force a franchise on you. There was an end credit scene that sets up a sequel, which is great. But it doesn't feel forced. But overall, at the end of the day, it's a really good script. It's legitimately funny most of the time. Most of the jokes land. And yeah, I think you have to compare it to Detective Pikachu since it's another video game movie with live action aimed at kids. I think Detective Pikachu's a little bit better. But this was also really good. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Maybe not my favorite. Yeah, well, you know, I'm not going to compare it to fucking anything by Tarantino, but, you know, Tim Miller did a good, I think Tim Miller directed this. I'm pretty sure he did. No, he produced it. He did some shit. He did something with this. Deadpool 2 guy. That's Tim Miller, right?
No. Deadpool 2 was Chad Stahelski. David Leitch.
What'd Tim Miller do? Fuck, now I gotta check.
Terminator, Dark Fate.
But he also did the director is Jeff Fowler. What did Tim Miller do? I thought he did something on this.
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay, well, sorry, I almost gave credit to the wrong person. Jeff Fowler directed the shit out of this. He did a good job. And I really enjoyed this movie. 8 out of 10. And yeah, it was really fun. That's the main thing you want out of a Sonic movie. You want it to be fun. I legitimately hope they do a sequel.
Damn. I think they actually might, but seeing as how much it crushed at the box office, right?
Yeah, I think it was like, it beat Birds of Prey out, and then I think it stayed number 1 in the second week. I don't know how it's doing now, but I think the redesign might have secretly been the best way to promote this film ever. Because from my understanding, the way it was promoted, actually, friend of the show, Anna, worked in the Australian promotion of this film. Nice. I remember her telling me the way they went for advertising this film was like, look, if the video game people like it, they'll go see it. If they don't, they won't. We don't have to advertise to them. So just treat it like a kid's film, like a family film, and just advertise families, which was a smart choice. It is a family film, so you got to expect it to not be, you got to remember it's a kid's film, but it's a good kid's film. And I had a lot of fun. My girlfriend wasn't even that attached to Sonic, and she wants to see it a second time. So, yeah. And also, it just reminds me, I think it might have been Patrick in the after party once a while ago, was talking about how come movies don't do tie-in songs anymore. Well, there's one in this movie, and it's okay if you're a Wiz Khalifa fan. But yeah.
If you're a Weezy fan. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of our listeners are, but okay, cool.
Yeah. It's, I wouldn't recommend this film for everybody. It's not going to change your life, but, for what it is, it does a good job for what it is. So yeah.
Cool, man. That's awesome. All right, man. Like, let's segue this into our MDF game for the week. We posted a question in the after party, and we posted a poll to go with that after party question. The question was very carefully worded. What is your favorite video game adaptation? Not best. What favorite?
Why don't you kick this off, man? What's your favorite?
Oh, baby. Oh, man. This was like, dude, this was like scraping shit. Like, this was, okay, because I haven't seen Detective Pikachu and I haven't seen Sonic the Hedgehog. And to be honest, I don't even think those two, even if I did watch them, would make my list, you know? I mean, I've seen my fair share of video game adaptations. I've seen Warcraft. I've seen Prince of Persia. I've seen Assassin's Creed. And, every time
I heard Warcraft was okay. I didn't see it. Was that all right?
Warcraft is okay. Yeah, it's actually not bad.
I feel like in general, like video games used to be really bad movies, but like they're getting better because Rampage wasn't terrible either. That was all right.
Yeah. Don't know about that one, man. That one was a snoozer, the old snoozer. That's what I call those. I think my favorite video game adaptation of all time is going to have to be Need for Speed.
You know what? I was also going to say after Rampage, Need for Speed also was pretty decent.
Yeah, you know what? It actually was. Yeah, it was okay because again, look, scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of categories here. Like Need for Speed, it's not the greatest movie of all time, and it's not the worst movie of all time. But I'll tell you what it does. It's got practical effects. It's shot pretty damn decently. It's very straightforward. It's got Michael Keaton in it. It's got Aaron Paul in it. And it's got fast cars. It's got Kid Cudi in it as an actor. He's acting in it.
I forgot.
Yeah. And mostly I like it for the practical effects, if anything. A lot of times with these video game adaptations, the effects get away from the directors. You don't even have to. You could throw a rock at any one of the 800 Resident Evil movies that Paul W.S. Anderson has directed, and just hit some terrible CGI. It's bad.
Yeah. All those Resident Evil movies, they're like trapped in like 2012. I feel.
Oh, dude.
Like they all feel like they were made 15 years ago or so. But Need for Speed, though, I've always said, and this is based off nothing other than my watching of it, I feel like that script was literally written for Aaron Paul.
Right.
It's smartly written in a way to play to his strength as an actor. They go, okay, what's he good at? He can look badass when he needs to, but also he's really good at crying. How do we make him cry and not be a bitch and still be cool? And then like they've smartly wrote a script about cool, fast cars, and still gave him those emotional moments for him to like, it's really like there are moments in that it could be like you can create a whole show reel of acting from Aaron Paul from that movie, which is weirdly to say about a Need for Speed film, a franchise that has no characters in it at all. And I also love what I love about that film. It's not my pick, but I'm just adding into your conversation.
No, please.
I remember the ads for that, and how much they were promoting it, and they were always like compared to other car franchises, because they were really trying to distance themselves from Fast and the Furious. So they did everything opposite. Like instead of using like cool hip hop music, they did cinematic score. Instead of like over the top CGI effects, they did everything practical.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting take.
Hats off for them for doing that, by the way. Like, I mean, that takes a lot of effort. Like the story's not amazing or anything like that, but man. It's good. Like I actually really kind of like decently enjoy that movie, and it's it's actually been a while since I've seen that movie, so maybe I need to watch it again. Maybe people are screaming into their headphones and shit and being like, "Fuck you, Zohab." But
you know what? I would be interested to cover that on the podcast just to see if it's as good as I remember it either too, because I remember liking it a lot.
I'm gonna have to get that one past Colin, but he's the censor board. Like he's the one who's like, nope, see you later. But yeah, man, what's your pick?
Well, the best one, at least from the ones on our list that I've seen, I'd probably have to give to Detective Pikachu.
Ooh,
but the question's not the best; it's what's your favorite.
Let me guess. Can I guess?
Well,
I mean, like, actually, you know what? That's how we were supposed to play the game. Fuck, I actually forgot you were supposed to guess. You were supposed to guess my pick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so my favorite, take a guess what it is.
I'm going to say Mortal Kombat.
It's a close second.
Oh, all right. What is it?
It's the Mario Brothers movie. The one that everybody hates.
The one that was covered on How Did This Get Made?
Yeah, everyone hates it, and I know, but as a kid, I thought it was the greatest movie of all time. Because I loved Mario, and I thought it was genius how they made it so real and cool and gritty, when really it was a directing couple who hated the idea of doing a kids film, and they wanted to do a movie like Blade Runner. And why the fuck they got hired is incredible to think of. But as a kid, I just have so many fond memories. I used to watch it like twice a day. My mum never refused to watch it with me. So one day I lied to her, said I had a dream, and then just told her the whole film scene by scene. Because I used to know pretty much almost all the words off by heart. I thought it was so smart the way that they had managed to squeeze a mushroom in there by using it as a shield. It's fucking stupid, but as a kid, I was like, wow, that's really smart. And then like how Yoshi was an actual dinosaur. There's so many stupid fucking concepts in that movie. But as a kid, I was like, wow, that's cool. What if dinosaurs did live in the center of the earth, you know? It was dumb. I think the best movie though, well made, might be Detective Pikachu. But I also watched Mario Bros. Back to back with Mortal Kombat. Fun fact about Mortal Kombat, I realized at an early age, if you watch Mortal Kombat back to back with Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon, you'll realize they stole the script of Enter the Dragon, literally every fucking scene up until like maybe the third act, and they just changed the characters with Mortal Kombat characters. So the reason that movie isn't completely fucking cringy is because they pretty much stole a Bruce Lee script.
Damn.
But as a kid, I really enjoyed watching it, Mortal Kombat as well, probably just as much as I liked Mario Brothers. But Mario Brothers was it's one of my first favorite movies as a kid, even though I now know it's fucking terrible.
Well, I mean, like, it's fine, man. Like, I mean, you know, the question was, what is your favorite pick, right? So,
man,
yeah, I mean, like,
you know, it'd be a much more. Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh no, go on. Sorry.
You know, it'd be a much more fun, interesting conversation. I think is what is the worst, or what movie do you hate the most that's based on a video game? Because there's just so fucking many, right?
Dude,
there's so many bad ones.
There are countless, and I think you might know mine. Actually, you know what? Should we guess each other's? Do you have one in mind?
Yeah, I think mine's a tie, actually.
You can't pause that long in the podcast. I actually thought I lost you for a sec. I was like, where are you?
I had to think. It's a hard question. What's the worst?
It's not a visual medium, Matt. They can't hear you think. Okay, do you have one?
I think it's a tie.
Okay, all right.
What's yours?
I have one definitively.
Oh, so I have to guess yours?
Yeah.
Is it by Yui Boll?
Well, I mean, I haven't seen any of those, so no.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, fun fact. I used to like a Yui Boll film a lot as a kid. I used to really like House of the Dead. I thought it was cool as a kid. And then I'd look at it now like, no, it's fucking stupid. It's like a 12-year-old directed it. Because he's done a few. I'm going to guess, is it Assassin's Creed?
No, actually, it's not. I mean, because that movie is somewhat watchable because of Michael Fassbender. My least liked video game movie of all time is the 2018 Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider, ladies and gentlemen. Walked out of that one. Yep. Walked out of that one.
All right, that's right. Yeah, we talked about on the podcast, and I keep telling you, all the best stuff in that movie is in the last half hour. Yeah. The last half hour is like, oh shit, that's what an Uncharted movie could be like. But everything before that, it's like a whole different director did it. It's so weird how much it changed. The last half hour feels like a fucking superhero movie. But everything before that, it's so slow and like there's so many scenes of her just trying to like bandage herself up, but because she's like on the verge of death. But at the same time, she's meant to be like this inspirational character. It's a weird fucking movie. It is poorly directed.
It's garbage.
Yeah. Do you want to guess one of my worst video game movies?
Sure.
Actually, you know what? I think one might be worse than the other. No. I've got one.
Street Fighter.
No, I used to like Street Fighter as a kid as well because I'm a fucking idiot.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is when I say kid, I'm talking like 8 years old. Okay, so and with the thing with Street Fighter and just like Mortal Kombat, it's like they just try to squeeze so many characters in there. So if you're there just for Easter eggs and references, like those movies have you covered. But I think the worst I've seen. I was originally going to say it tied with Max Payne.
Oh.
Because Max Payne is incredibly boring.
John Moore is not a great director. I don't know who gave John Moore the 5th Die Hard movie after Max Payne.
Max Payne, the movie feels like it has nothing in common with the video game. And it's just weirdly, it's like slow.
It's problematic.
Boring.
I don't think of angel creatures when I play Max Payne. I'm sorry, I just don't.
I think it might be the most bored I was in cinema. Next to I was pretty bored with The Nun. But yeah, I think the worst one for me, Max Payne might be worse, but I think it's Assassin's Creed.
Oh, all right. Interesting.
I think it's just incredible how much they missed the mark.
Very by the numbers.
Because you've played the original, right? And like it was mostly the fans of the game asking for it. And I feel very confident that the director or creative team, like, it's like they looked at the game and said, this is shit, let's do something completely different. Because when you think of Assassin's Creed, you think of bright colors, running around over buildings, feeling larger than life. It's fun. And you're stealth sneaking up and getting people. But this movie, it's about 50% of it is Michael Fassbender being tortured and crying.
Yeah, it's him outside of the Animus, which is a big deal.
Yeah. And it's all dark and gloomy. And it's like, okay, this is bad. Then the action scenes are poorly directed. And like you can't tell what's going on sometimes, I felt.
You have Michael Fassbender and Marion Cotillard. Like, these two are fucking amazing actors.
But Michael Fassbender is not playing an interesting character. He's an interesting actor who often does great performances, but like they butchered it by like he's got nothing to do here other than sit around and cry, and that's not interesting to watch, I feel, when you go to see a movie about a guy who runs around like jumps off Roman cathedrals and shit, you know?
Because that takes money to do, dude. I think they just ran out of money.
Oh, I feel like they had none to begin with. And I think and then towards the end, when you think it might start getting good, where it's like he finally becomes an assassin, he puts on the hood with some other guys, you finally climbs up top of a building, you're like, oh, cool, we're going to get some cool. And then it ends out of nowhere. Like, it feels like it's building up to a climax, but then it ends, and it's like, oh, we almost got a good scene. Like, I think there's maybe 2 action scenes in the film, and they're both bad.
I just remember one had something to do with a carriage. I don't fucking know, dude.
I remember that scene, but I don't remember what happened because it was so much shaky cam and close-ups. I couldn't tell what was going on. I think he jumped onto a carriage, but I don't know. It was really bad.
This is depressing me. Fuck this. All right, man. Let me just. So I posed a question to you, right? Like, this is a little bit of a surprise.
Sorry.
Thing. Yeah.
Before we go,
yeah,
should we see what the after party said?
Yeah. Well, I was gonna put that right at the end.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad.
I posed a question to you, and basically the question was, if you had to pick one video game to turn into a movie, what would it be, and who would be your ideal director / actors / cast? So, do you have one in mind?
Not a great one. To be honest, the older I get, the more I realize I think most video games should not be movies. Because you got great ones like, you look at something like The Last of Us, right? Which obviously probably inspired shit like Logan.
See, I knew you were going to say that, and like I specifically did not pick it because it basically is a movie already, and it's perfect.
Yeah, right? And then I look at things like, for example, the new God of War, where they literally had to change so much about the character just so they could tell a story, because before it wasn't so narrative based.
You love your Sony exclusives.
Yeah, well, Sony lately are really getting into narrative single player stuff, which is like the opposite Xbox, and that's why I'm starting to love Sony so much. But then I look at, like, everybody always goes, oh, a Legend of Zelda movie would be amazing. Like, no, it wouldn't. It'd be terrible because the main character can't talk. The second he starts saying words, he's not the character anymore. And who's the supporting cast? There's Zelda and like Ganondorf and nobody else. So I think a Zelda movie probably wouldn't be great. I'm very skeptical about the upcoming Super Mario Bros. Movie because, again, like I get why they get the Minion guys to do it because Minions don't talk. But I think if outside of Yahoo and it's a me, Mario, he can't say anything else or it won't be him. So, and like the smartest thing about Sonic was by fucking everything else off and just putting the character and his personality in like a familiar world. So I'm left with thinking, what the fuck would my choice be? And my first choice is already being made. It's Mortal Kombat. And they're doing it the way I would want them to do it. It's an R-rated Avengers with an unknown cast mostly. So at this point, I was like, what the fuck do I pick?
I think that's that's disqualified, dude, if you choose that.
Yeah. So I got a pick, but it's not a great one. But it's a game I'm currently playing now, which is another Sony exclusive, Horizon Zero Dawn.
Nice. That's a good pick, dude.
Yeah, so why do I think it would be a good pick? Also, like speaking of Sonic, like Rampage is another example. It's got almost nothing in common with the video game.
Oh, Matthew.
And that's probably why it works.
You keep going, you keep going backwards. Like as soon as you get interesting, you just go backwards.
But I'm getting to a point. Like you look at like the reason that movie isn't completely shit is because they made up so much new shit to it and just added in the key memorable elements. But the reason I think Horizon Zero Dawn could be a good movie is because that game is so bad at storytelling. There's a great world, there's great building, there's great stuff, but it's got pretty shitty cutscenes for the most part. And a lot of the story is told through these very awkward dialogue conversations that I just want to skip through because it's so uninteresting because it has a choice system which doesn't relate to the gameplay, and it's just two people standing still with no action going on. Complete opposite to like what Last of Us and God of War do. But the world is so interesting and there's so much great creatures and stuff, which, you know, with all the CGI budgets going through the roof, it'd be amazing. Who would I play? Who would I get to star? I would probably get a Jennifer Lawrence type. I wouldn't say it could be Jennifer Lawrence, but I feel like that character is very inspired by Katniss from the Hunger Games. I am told that there was some inspiration from one of the actresses from Game of Thrones, but I'm not sure who. But I would say a Jennifer Lawrence type would be good. No one's coming to mind, but yeah, it could be Jennifer Lawrence if we just want to be like, fuck it. But
cool.
Yeah. I don't know who would direct it, but it'd probably be, it'd be someone like, I know I want them not to overdo the comedy and stuff. It would still be a PG-13 film, but they'd probably want to be someone who can do like good heart to it. Cause I think heart is what's going to make that character shine in a world that's so fucking intimidating. But yeah, what do you got?
Well, dude, mine is, it's funny that you went for a PlayStation exclusive because I went for an Xbox exclusive.
Halo like everybody else?
No. I wanted to go a little bit more original, yet at the same time not very original because it's actually been spoken about already by the director that I actually had in mind. I actually found out in research, like while I was like, you know, maybe this would be a good director. And then I found out that he actually spoke on it. Like he was actually interested in doing it. My choice is BioShock, the first BioShock.
Right, yeah.
If you're unfamiliar with BioShock, it is amazing. Like BioShock is just a game that's very story driven. It's very world driven, very atmospheric. Basically, you go down in this airplane crash and you end up in this underwater sort of like city that's basically gone insane. Like, you know, like there's these like characters called splicers and they're bad guys, and you get these. I can't even explain it to you, dude. It's just so fantastical. Yeah. It's a fantasy, and it's just so well crafted, so well made. There's a twist at the end of the game that's absolutely outstanding. So this game was an Xbox exclusive for a very long time until I think it went to all platforms. But yeah, man, the first BioShock was just an absolute amazing experience that I really, really reveled in when I played it the first time. My director, I don't have any actors for it because there's no actual actor.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, there's the big daddies that walk around with the little girls, but I mean, you know, you can't really select an actor for those. You know, the main bad guy, I guess you could probably choose an actor for him, but I don't really have anyone in mind. The director that I chose was and you know, based off The Shape of Water, based off Pan's Labyrinth, Guillermo del Toro.
Makes sense, of course. Yeah.
Dude, I mean, like, the guy can do fantasy. Like, you know, the guy can do underwater worlds. Like, you know, the guy knows how to create just world building and universes. And the guy knows how to use practical effects to the best of their ability. So back in 2017, he actually talked about this movie. He said, because originally this movie was going to go into production. The original director was Gore Verbinski, who directed the first 3 Pirates of the Caribbean films. And he was, you know, ultimately they kind of killed the project because he wanted a huge budget. He wanted a $200 million budget, and he wanted an R rating. Like, you know, that is a expensive R rating.
You could do that movie with $200 million, but you couldn't. No one's going to say R rating for that. Like,
yeah, no
studio's going to agree to that.
Absolutely, it's either one or the other. You won't get both. But to be honest, I think you can kind of create a decent BioShock film with $90 million. I actually think you could.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Guillermo del Toro told a short list. He expressed interest in directing. He said, as for making movies out of games, the one I could really see is BioShock. I would love to make it into a movie. Gore Verbinski was attached to it, and he would have been perfect. So yeah, man, I think if there was like a wish list, it would be BioShock, because that is a story-driven game that's not overly cinematic. It's all done through gameplay, and it's not very, it's not like The Last of Us, where you have these, massive sort of like cutscenes that show the story and already perfectly. It's all sort of like in-game based combat. It's in-game based events. So I do think that it can be done really, really well. So yeah, that's my pick, man.
think I haven't played BioShock, but from what I know of it, I think the world would be really great to see on screen. But I imagine they would have to create or somehow generate like a new batch of characters to live in that world, right? Because it's not so much character focused, isn't it?
It is actually pretty character focused. Surprisingly, like the guy that you play has a very mysterious backstory, and the villain has a very mysterious backstory. And it's not until the end of the game that both characters and how they are related to one another, like how it becomes very clear. And it's actually masterfully executed, dude. It's so clever in the way it decides to tell its story that I think it would make an amazing, amazing film.
Cool.
But yeah.
I think if I was to pick other films and I just list them off, as a kid, I always wanted to see a Killer Instinct movie, but that would never get made because that franchise isn't popular enough. I would love to see something like Time Crisis, because I think that anime-inspired Japanese vibe could be weirdly interesting if they did like some John Wick shit to it.
Oh, dude, there was a game back in the day, I think it was around 2008 or something, called Time Shifter. I think I've mentioned it on the podcast before.
I think I know, yeah.
Yeah, pretty fucking cool.
I think I'd also love to see something like, I remember Nintendo once to promote one of the Star Fox games. They had like a little mini anime that went for like 10 minutes. And I remember thinking that'd be really cool as a movie if they did it. Like, I love to see if they did it with puppets or something or CGI. But yeah, most Nintendo properties I think would be terrible as movies though. But we'll see that about Mario. Yeah, it's an interesting exercise to think about it. But when I really think about it, like a lot of people just go, this is cool. Let's make a great movie. Well, it's like, yeah, but like storytelling works differently to gameplay. Like a lot of great stuff about like Call of Duty is a popular franchise. Doesn't mean it's going to make a good movie. It's, yeah, you got to also think about like where are the Easter eggs at and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, this is fun, man. This is fun.
Cool, dude. Yeah, absolutely. So again, we posted our poll in the after party, which resulted in a lot of comments. So we're going to go through most of them, not all of them. The poll results were actually kind of interesting, right? I mean, the winner of the poll for favorite video game adaptation was clearly Mortal Kombat, 1995's Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat.
Second place was Pokemon Detective Pikachu. Third place was Warcraft. Fourth place was Hitman. Tied with fourth place was Hitman and Street Fighter. No votes for Sonic the Hedgehog, Resident Evil, Need for Speed, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, or Prince of Persia Sands of Time. Now, I did put an other category because, you can't put all of the options in the poll. Yeah. So people did kind of like, put some in. Let's go through a few. Rick says Silent Hill and Ace Attorney are honorable mentions. Danielle Cutter says, I don't know what that GIF is. Do you know what that GIF is?
I'm going to find it and I'll let you know.
Okay.
I don't have it open.
We'll come back to you, Danielle Cutter. Clay Boyington says Assassin's Creed? ? Not that it was that great, but it beat a few of those. Luke Newnham.
Disagree. Big disagree.
Sorry, you just had to listen to that vitriol, Clay. Luke Newnham says, despite picking Detective Pikachu, I really enjoyed Tomb Raider 2018 too. Oh, baby, Luke, I am sorry. I thought it was better than the Angie films. Surprised that neither that or Assassin's Creed made the list, to be honest. Carlos Picatossi. Yep. Danielle
Cutter. That is Raiden from...
Oh, there you go. Mortal Kombat.
But I think it's, but it's from the bad one, Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Oh.
Which, fun story about Mortal Kombat Annihilation. But when we first got DVD player, I went to Blockbuster, no, Video Easy. I rented it, and the quality is so much worse. And I watched it. I'm excited about watching my first ever DVD. My dad walks in, sees the terrible costumes, and goes, "Are you watching Power Rangers? I thought you grew out of that." Realized how fucking terrible this movie was, turned it off, and never watched it again.
Amazing.
So I stand by the first Mortal Kombat is great, but if you think Mortal Kombat Annihilation is great, go fuck yourself.
I think I don't know if Danielle was being sarcastic there because yeah. Carlos says we all know Pokemon the first movie is the best video game adaptation. Now, okay, does that count?
Nah, anime doesn't count. Look, it doesn't count. I think we're talking live action. But Pokemon the first movie was, I think it just got remade again.
It's on Netflix. Like a 3D animated remake.
Name one kid that didn't cry when watching that.
Dude.
It has a special place in many 90s kids' hearts.
And so does the second one for me, Pokemon 2000, the one with Lugia and shit. That was awesome. Brooke Moss says Mortal Kombat's one of my favorite, quote, bad films, and I didn't expect to enjoy Warcraft, but I thought that one was pretty good too. Dude, yeah, I actually agree. Warcraft is pretty damn good. It's directed by fuck. Why am I forgetting his name? But the CG in it is like some of the best CG you'll ever see. And why am I forgetting his name, dude? I can't believe it. He was in The Prestige. He's one of the greatest fucking singers of all time.
Who the fuck was in The Prestige?
Fucking David Bowie's son, dude. David Bowie's son.
Oh.
Yeah, it's directed by David Bowie's son, which is actually incredible.
What?
Yeah, he directed Moon, he directed Source Code, and he directed Warcraft.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Mortal Kombat's fun. Oh, this is Alan Michael Pools. Mortal Kombat's fun, but come on, guys. It's the soundtrack that makes it.
Low-key, he's not wrong.
Right. Patrick Brassel also agrees with you in regards to Super Mario Brothers. Danny Phelps says Resident Evil Apocalypse because reasons. And he posts a photo of Mila Jovovich. Patrick Harrington, Street Fighter is so bad, so bad that it's genuinely an interesting watch because you wonder how the fuck they made it in the first place. Plus, Jean-Claude Van Damme, you are all under arrest. Danny Hartley says Detective Pikachu, Sonic, and the 2018 Tomb Raider are more bad than good, despite having surprising fan references occasionally. The lesser of all these evils is Detective Pikachu for me. Wow, glass half full, Danny. I love it. Dude, and I love Patrick's observation, right? He says, it seems like all of us are thinking, which of these is the least shittiest movie with these picks?
Yeah.
And I think we took listener Nathan Burkhart by surprise, right? He says, there seriously isn't a good one that I can think of based on a video game. None of them are even remotely good at sticking to the source material, which is kind of the whole point of the movie. A little bit of a side, you know me, I disagree with that sentiment. Especially when it comes to comic book movies, I'm a little it doesn't have to stick to the source material. It just kind of needs to get the essence of it, I think. I'd say the new Lara Croft at least had the same feel as the video game reboot trilogy. Oh boy.
Well, the problem is, and I think the new Lara Croft does this a little bit, is when you start lifting scenes directly out of it.
Why are we watching this?
You're walking a fine line between
what we just talked about with The Last of Us.
Yeah, is it fan service or are you why are we watching this?
Right.
So I think that it's going to be a question that doesn't have an easy answer. But because you need it to be somewhat familiar, because if you go too far away from source material, you're going to lose the fans, which we have seen happen before.
Right.
So I don't know if there's an answer to that properly, but you shouldn't take too much out of it.
Nathan Burkhart finishes his comment off saying, I voted other because I choose Wreck-It Ralph, right? He cheated as well. He said...
That's cheating so much.
He said, I know it's not based on a particular video game, but rather it's an homage. Some say a love letter to a ton of games from my formative years. The movie is chock full of references to video games from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and noughts. It's a movie for gamers seemingly made by gamers. If we're going to go that route, I'm just going to choose Ready Player One. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if we just want to go secret commercial for video games, we could go The Wizard. Is it The Wizard or The Wiz? I think it's The Wizard. Did you ever see that movie?
No, I didn't, but I think I've heard of both, The Wizard and The Wiz. So
I think it's The Wizard. I think it's good. Basically, it's basically Nintendo had to wait another year before they could release Super Mario 3 in Australia. Sorry, in America. So they were just like, okay, you guys can make this movie about a kid who's really good at video games, and the climax is basically just a giant commercial for Super Mario Brothers 3. They're like, they show up at some video game competition. They go, you're going to play a brand new game. And then just a montage of Super Mario Brothers 3 for 5 minutes. And it's clearly a commercial. And it's amazing that that was even fucking allowed.
That's old school for you. Carlos, this is the final comment that I'm mentioning because we just have way too many. So I really apologize, guys, for not getting to you. But Carlos says one pretty damn good point. You know what? Witcher is the best video game adaptation by far. Now, critically, I think it is, right? I mean, and speaking to people who have seen it, because I haven't seen it myself, I've only seen the first 2 episodes. That might be accurate, I think, from what I'm hearing.
I would agree. However, I believe it, maybe they only said this for legal reasons, but I believe it's actually based off the books rather than the game. If you want to get real nitpicky. But if you look at the show and you look at the game, you can tell it's the same thing, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think it's a gray area if I'm going to agree with that. But it is very well received. That is true.
Yeah, man. Look, that about does it for this week's MDF game. Holy shit. That was a good one, right? Let me just say, I wanted to choose one that would have been infinitely more shittier. I was like, hey, let's all choose our favorite classic monsters. And you're just like, no. We're going to do video game adaptations. And I was like, that's much better.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking every classic monster kind of bores the shit out of me, to be honest. Like there's cool concepts, but they haven't been done really well in cinema. Which is a shame because that's what excited me about Dark Universe. We're gonna get a new of all these, but then I don't know how the fuck you'd cross them over without it being shitty. And then we saw how bad the Mummy was, and now we saw how good the Invisible Man was. And I think Universal made the right choice.
Hot take though, I was never excited about Dark Universe.
Hot take. That's not a hot take. I think most people agree with you. I think it was just a time where the industry was excited about cinematic universes. Because as always, when someone does something right, everybody else copies. But look at every other cinematic universe. The DC one.
Oh, let's not go down
may
this
or may
rabbit hole,
not
dude.
exist.
It's way too late. Fuck.
But the most successful one is The Conjuring, probably, which is kind of saying something.
Yeah.
Do you think The Conjuring will have their own Avengers, where The Conjuring teams up with The Nun and Annabelle? Annabelle versus The Nun. How bad would that movie be?
You're giving me a stroke right now. I'm just actually having a stroke right now. Dude, Fast and Furious is also bad enough with its universe happening right now with Hobbs and Shaw and shit, so I'm good.
Bro, you just know James Wan is somewhere they're going, come on, guys. Annabelle versus The Nun. Let's make it happen. No.
Yeah.
Let's get away from it.
Yeah.
Take us out of here.
Let's just get the fuck away from this, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for this upcoming Attractions episode. We have been Midnight Double Feature. This has been fun. Dude, I love these MDF games now. I'm just they're a staple. They're staying. We get great community engagement, and if you want to engage with the community, please follow our after party group. Sorry, excuse me, which is on Facebook. It's called the After Party. That's 3 words. And yeah, we all have a great time there. Membership is free. You don't have to pay any bullshit, or there's no paywall. We also have the Midnight Double Feature main page. If you don't want to engage with the community, but still want to see our updates, it's just called Midnight Double Feature. That's our main page on Facebook. We're on Twitter, which is at MDF Pod. We're on Instagram, which is at Midnight Double Feature. And please remember to rate and review us on iTunes. We have a competition going at the moment. You can select a free movie for us to cover, any movie, and we will cover it. All you have to do is just screenshot a review that you have written on iTunes and send it to midnightdoublefeature@gmail.com. Matt, do you have anything else to say before we get the fuck out of here?
Just something I'd love to say that I just saw on my Facebook, which ties into the after party. A while ago, you posted in the after party a few things about the bushfires in Australia, before the Golden Globes and everyone started talking about it. You did it before it was cool. But I just saw on my Facebook now, for the first time since July 2019, there are no active bush or grass fires in New South Wales. So I'm not saying the after party is the reason for this, but thanks to those who helped out.
When did you see that? Because I posted that in the after party a while back that the fires were out.
No. Did you? Oh, I didn't. Okay, there you go. I fucked up. I just saw this on another thing right now.
It might just be, like Facebook's weird when it comes to like posts like that. Like sometimes like you would think it's the most recent, but it's not. It's like posted like a month ago and it's like, here you go.
This says 4 hours though. So I don't know, maybe they posted it. I don't know. Fuck. Anyways, though, I'm glad my country is, well, at least my state is not on fire. I think there might be some still in Victoria, but yeah, that's always nice.
It's always nice, dude. Hold on. Sorry, I'm just reading it now. This is 13th of Feb. After a month of tireless firefighting, the Rural Fire Service has advised that for the first time this season, all fires burning in New South Wales have been declared contained. I don't know what the difference is there, but okay, cool. Well, at least it's good news, either all the way around, right? That's good.
Fuck yeah. And that's it for us, I guess, with upcoming attractions. Next up, we have another feature presentation coming, where we go through a whole film. Zoheb, do you know what that film is going to be?
Yes. If you're in the after party, you already know that it's going to be First Blood, 1982's First Blood. Really keen for that one.
Rambo. Yeah. Cool. And hope that's a lot of fun. We'll see you guys laters.